is kind of the, to me, is the slower stream of the two.
Oh, one other thing. Doesn't matter if you're using it or not, get the page, get your name. Don't let other people get your name and start using it because they will. If you go to Twitter, go to BP Global PR. That is not BP. It's funny, but it's not BP. You don't want that to happen to you.
And from an airport reference, Milwaukee did that. In fact, they went on Twitter and acquired Mitchell Airport, right? Mitchell Airport, and their lone tweet for 6 months until they decided they were ready to go, and I think that their Twitter launch essentially coincided with Southwest's launch of new service in Milwaukee, which was great timing. You want to talk about something exciting on Twitter? Talk about the largest low-cost airline in the country coming to your airport. But their lone tweet was, "Thank you for your interest in Mitchell Airport. Here's a link to our homepage." Why wouldn't you do that? We had somebody put a question out here about, well, what about your lawyers? Has anybody talked to lawyers? Well, look, saying come visit my website at my website address. There's no question there. At the very least, at the very least, you need to be doing that. Go ahead.
Hi, what do you do? Do you have any tips on trying to reach out to the international? I mean, what I see is a lot of Facebook followers and friends, and Twitter followers and Facebook friends, and most of them are domestic, the U.S. Do you have any tips on reaching out to the foreign language, besides putting something out in the foreign language? But what do you do in terms of trying to reach out to the international markets?
Definitely relevant for LAX, for sure. But what do you guys think? I mean,
Well, it depends. If you're using, for example, WordPress has fantastic tools that allows you to have, I think, up to 39 languages. And by the way, WordPress, again, fabulous price, free.
Which is blogging software.
Right. But the thing is, in the end, you want to drive people to something.
I was just explaining for people that didn't know.
I don't think with Twitter at 140 characters, it's not going to help much. But what you definitely want to do is drive traffic to a blog, because that's where you have the space, the time, the content. And if you go with something like a WordPress tool, with the multiple language as the thing you can add into your site for free, I think that might help.
I think for Twitter especially, Nancy, you think of all the different countries that are visiting LAX, right? Are you going to be able to respond in all those different languages? Probably not, right? I mean, because it's every language that's coming through there, and if people have a question and do it, I don't think there's anything wrong with setting the expectation that you're going to operate in English. If there are certain groups, maybe Spanish would be a really valuable one to have, and you have someone who is able to respond in Spanish, or maybe it's her, or if maybe there's an Asian language, if it's Japan or something like that. It could be something that's worth setting up if you're interested in addressing it that way, but I think it's generally expected that people will respond in their home language. But that's something, it's a good question.
We haven't really dealt with international markets yet, but we did do a campaign trying to engage national parks and people who are visiting national parks, try to get our word out more. And when you reach out and touch those organizations that are like say in the national park, for example, and they're following you, and you can have a conversation with them, then it gets out to their people through their channels. And so my thought is, addressing on the international side, if there's major international or visitor bureaus or that are in those main other countries, and you're trying to get more of their followers or more interaction with them, tying up with them so that they can get your message out to their group, and then it starts to spread. That's kind of how we handle it.
Go ahead, Daniel, you're next.
Daniel Butcher, Airports Council. My question is for Clint. It's about the sustainability of using Twitter as a customer responsiveness tool in the manner in which you described. As the penetration of Twitter in the marketplace and the passions of using it, and seeing experiences like this and using that as a strategy to get redress. Are you going to be able to scale it up and maintain that level of responsibility?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and me and my colleague at Alaska kind of have sleepless nights sometimes trying to figure out what happens if this gets so big that now all we're getting all day long is people complaining.
Should ask Morgan at JetBlue.
What's that?
Ask Morgan at JetBlue.
Yeah, and and they've got, if I'm not mistaken, they've got actually a staff of people.
Yeah, they
that's
do.
all they do. And I think what we've talked about at our two companies is if it gets to the point where we have that many followers like JetBlue is, we're actually have to change our strategy a little bit and actually have people that's what they do. I'm really fortunate on the Horizon side because we're very kind of a little bit scrappier and we move a little bit more quickly than Alaska does, and we integrated that into our customer care group pretty quickly. So we have, I initially take the response and then I'd hand it over to our customer care person. There's a customer care person that's just assigned to doing nothing but Twitter type complaints. So I think at least for a long while we should be okay handling it, but I know at Alaska they're starting to get a little concerned because they're now starting to get up there in the followers. But for either of us, thankfully we don't have that many service failures that it's taxing our time yet.
And then, just to throw that in from an airport perspective, Daniel, we had one. Our airport's different. We don't have water fountains behind every security checkpoint. We had one gentleman with 35,000 followers that within 30 seconds had 5 tweets on Uber fail hashtag Kansas City Airport. You suck, you charging me like $5 for a bottle of water, and you don't even have a water fountain. I'm filling up my water bottle from the hot tap water, the single temperature tap water, in the lab, and he's like picking it, and it's a disaster. I engaged the guy, right, and the ability to turn someone that's hating on you into a fan, it's hard, you say, gosh, there's multiple service fails, but like David Kush said, first thing this morning was, you can create no more loyal of a fan than taking someone that was hating on you 30 minutes ago and treating them well and getting them to buy in. And once they bought in, they are, you take one of those over 100 people who just passing through your airport, someone that had a bad experience because you turned around. For example, the guy that you just mentioned. So I think that it's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to handle a lot of those, but man, when you get a victory, it's, you're whistling all the way home.